And finally, for the first time in maybe 4 decades, all those people forecasting a crash in house prices will be correct. They've been wrong every single other time. And I would suggest that is going to be the case this time around as well. Well, hi again, everybody. Things can certainly change relatively quickly in certain markets out there. Obviously, we know that for the likes of cryptocurrencies, exchange rates, and also, of course, in the share market. But it's interesting what's happening in the housing market at the moment, where we're starting to see a number of articles where people are saying, now we're going to get a crash in house prices. Now we've got the interest rates going up. Supply is going to be booming over the next few years. Maybe some people moving overseas. Basically, all different versions of things which I've been pointing out will be causing a slowdown in the pace of increase in house prices in New Zealand. But just because we've got these restraining factors coming along doesn't mean all of a sudden everything switches back in the other direction. And finally, for the first time in maybe 4 decades, all those people forecasting a crash in house prices will be correct. They've been wrong every single other time. And I would suggest that is going to be the case this time around as well. Now, I fully expect for the next few months, the house prices in New Zealand will keep rising relatively strongly. There is still a lot of pent-up demand out there, obviously in Auckland, but in many other parts of the country as well. But as we get through 2022, I definitely expect that house price inflation will slow down quite a lot in most parts of the country and probably flatten out. And maybe in some locations where things have got a bit ballistic, quite frankly, compared with underlying economic fundamentals, there could be some corrections in the likes of maybe Gisborne, where prices have gone up over 40% or so in the past year. Maybe Manawatu Wanganui as well. A lot of investors have been buying down there, so there could be a little correction there. I wouldn't overrate that one all that much. Hawke's Bay, this one's difficult to figure, and although the prices are well above trend, there is some population movement there, especially with the baby boomers retiring, and in particular many choosing to retire early, with obviously the COVID-19 lifestyle choice, all of that going on. So I'm a bit less certain about Hawke's Bay than I was previously. Wellington, I think, has gone a little bit beyond the reality there, and there could be a little bit of a correction. And Dunedin, when you've got the likes of the median house sales price in Dunedin equaling, in fact, I think for a few months they're exceeding Christchurch, maybe things have got themselves a little bit out of whack. But here's just a simple list of reasons why I don't expect prices crash as such. I mean, right at the top would be no one really wants it apart from somebody who hasn't made a purchase yet. The government will not want that happening going into the election in a couple of years' time. The Reserve Bank also won't want that happening because they consider that as something leading to a bit of financial instability. So don't expect it's going to be created out there. In terms of some of the things supporting prices, number one, construction costs are rising very, very strongly. And as the price of new builds goes up, it leads to some extra insulation for the price of existing property. Number two there, when people have calculated with their banks their ability to service mortgages over the past few years, the banks have made them use an interest rate 3, maybe 4% higher than they were actually paying. So there is a buffer there in terms of people's ability to pay the higher interest rates. Thirdly, about 43% of people owning houses, they don't have a mortgage. I know we think everybody's got a mortgage. That is not the case. Lots and lots of people do not have mortgages, will not be affected by the interest rates going up. Wages growth is going to accelerate, and job security is yet to lift. I can look at one of my surveys and it says to me, people don't yet feel the true level of security their job has now. I think that's going to be coming through over the next couple of years, and that will provide some insulation as well. And let me also just note that with not just the cost of building houses going up, but people concerned about inflation generally, many people view housing as a hedge against inflation generally also. So I look at those things and they say to me that while definitely it's reasonable to expect that the boom we've had in house prices, 35% over the past 18 months, is into its end game, a few months left, but then I think prices flattening out in most locations over the second half of next year. For some, it might even be the middle of next year. We'll see how that one goes. All the best.